tell you.
On March 11, 2013, Mayor Corey, Superintendent of City Services Floyd Alsop, and 7 aldermen met in closed session under the pretext of discussing personnel issues. Per Illinois state statute, personnel discussions are exempted from public viewing. In addition to these personnel discussions, much of the session involved talk about submitting newspaper ads to dispute residents' complaints. After listening to the session's audio recording, the Attorney General's office determined that city officials broke the law, the Open Meetings Act. The purpose of the Open Meetings Act is to ensure that Illinois officials conduct business openly, not behind closed doors. The Attorney General's office directed Monticello officials to redact personnel issues from the meeting's recording and make the rest of it and the written minutes available to the public. The mayor's admittance about the illegality of their meeting shows that they all knew they were breaking the law. His comments to a reporter about it being a, quote, eye-opener for all of us, a learning process, end quote, is disingenuous. The complete body of the minutes was redacted, which is another violation, this time of the Freedom of Information Act. The public will never know whether the mayor correctly fulfilled the Attorney General's directive to release everything other than personnel issues. Monticello has a population of just over 5,500 people, but when it comes to dirty politics, Monticello city administrators can't compete with any municipality. It took over a year to finally obtain the redacted portion of the recording. During their meeting, the mayor and aldermen agreed to write privately funded newspaper ads, basically political ads, favoring them a few weeks before the April 2013 election. The alderman and mayor decided that Mr. Alsop needed to write these ads because they had no time nor knowledge to write them themselves. In June 2014, Mayor Corey and the current alderman went into another closed session and chose the portions of the recording to delete. In other words, they decided which sections were strictly related to personnel issues and could still be kept secret. This sounds like the wolf was allowed to guard the henhouse.
So, okay, roll call. Mr. Hayes.
Here.
Mr. Brown.
Here.
Mr. Kiddemeyer.
Yes.
Mr. Eads.
Here.
Mr. Mitz.
Yes.
Mr. Murdoch.
Yes.
And Mr. Cummings.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Okay, roll call complete.
I want to, we need to respond to these jerks.
I was just getting ready to go there.
Now, somebody needs to, and I'll give you $100 right now for a newspaper ad.
Well, that's how it's going to be handled.
We won't use taxpayers.
No, sir.
But I think there needs to be one that just goes through the complaints that we've had.
Correct.
That gripes from those people and explain them so the people know.
Now, I know he doesn't like to hear it because he's buried with FOIAs and then his regular job. But he's the man that can best assist in a response. He and I are going to sit down, and any one of you are welcome to weigh in. In fact, all 8 of you can give us your thoughts. But we are going to formulate a response this week. And we're going to pay for an ad. I don't care how big it is, even if it's a whole page. Or if it's a quarter page. We're out of my pocket. And whoever else wants to join in, it's going to be out of mine, I guarantee it. We're going to pay for an ad, and it's going to list right off the line. Right down the line.
At least a half.
Oh, I guarantee it will take that much.
I put in how many FOIs that they've done.
I have no qualms in doing that.
What work hasn't been done.
But people need to know, and I'm getting it from John Miller. People don't know what's going on. And the ones that do want to know why the hell we haven't responded yet.
You bet. That's the biggest complaint I've had.
Yeah, mine too.
Why have you people not responded to those jerks?
And honestly, because we didn't really know how.
Because I blew my cover tonight.
Well, we're going to work on it, and I'm going to have to drag him in on this, maybe to a limited extent, and maybe after hours, or maybe on a weekend. But I really want to get that in as soon.
If you may find that you're going to need a couple of weeks worth.
Well, I don't have a couple weeks.
Well, I know, but I would.
You can split it up into 2 responses.
But you might need more than that.
Yeah.
Because I would actually sit there and go, all right, ladies and gentlemen, here's what happened.
Don't do this even if we have to pay him out of our own pocket. Gail Jones might be somebody. She's been around a long time.
Yeah, but you know, she's not a woman of words.
How about Mike's mother? She don't mix much words.
No, I agree.
No, she doesn't. I just started what I would put in an article. I put the headlines on the top. In an effort to discredit, slander, and destroy the public confidence in the city administrator, the mayor, and city council, the following.
Mr. Alsop is a paid city employee. He wrote the ads for the mayor and city council, coordinated feedback from and between the city officials, and then delivered the ads to the newspaper. A big portion of this effort, if not all, was done during city business hours, apparently on city computers, using his city email account. Totally unethical. These emails from Mr. Alsop are typical of those sent and received while he wrote the ads and was supposed to be performing his real job. Should a city employee be writing political ads on city time and equipment to help re-elect incumbents? The employee manual forbids this. It also violates all ethical regulations. In a letter to the Attorney General and supported by the alderman's affidavits, Mr. Alsop admitted to writing the ads. The following is an excerpt from Mr. Alsop's response to the Attorney General. Quote, I assembled the information and contacted each alderman individually to present a draft of the letter, setting forth the information about the issues. I took comments about the draft, made corrections, and circulated the letter to each individual alderman and the mayor. When I had consensus, I delivered the letter to the newspaper. End quote. And by letter, he meant the ads. Why didn't our mayor have any expertise, knowledge of city operations, facts about the issues raised by members of the public? Those people who, according to Mr. Mitz, are, quote, those jerks, end quote. Residents voted for the mayor, not for Mr. Alsop. He isn't their speechwriter, political ad writer, nor the mayor's public relations manager. He's the council's and mayor's employee. Who's in charge?
Well, we got to get a new auditor, obviously. Yeah.
He isn't giving us, and our attorney's just giving us bad information too, because this meeting is illegal. Anybody can tell you.
Not all the emergency types of stuff, but I mean, it's nickel dime crap that you don't need to be fooling with. I like the payoffs. That's what we're supposed to be doing, ain't it?
Now that's difficult for me to get in the right frame of mind to write such a letter where I'm sucking up to the Attorney General's office so that we don't get more than a slap on the hand.
You know, whatever we can do. I mean, if we have to have some sort of a special meeting or something, I'm willing to do whatever we have to do, and I think these guys are too. I mean, and I always say, you know, you don't want to lay down with dogs because you're going to get fleas. But you know, maybe it is time. I mean, I've told Floyd that I just hate to respond to him because it just gives him some credence.
Mr. Hayes is not heard on the recording except for his vote to start and end the meeting. Considering that he's an outspoken alderman, it's telling that his comments have been redacted. In an effort to keep this presentation brief, only a few of the issues mentioned in those newspaper ads will be addressed here. More information can be found on the website www.monticelloillinois.org. The ad stated, quote, "We will never intentionally jeopardize public and employee safety for any of our projects," end quote. That's another insincere statement. Mr. Alsop wrongfully terminated a city employee who questioned his ignoring state and federal rules for inspecting for asbestos before demolition of the house at Buchanan in Washington. After extensive research and numerous Freedom of Information requests, a complaint was made to the Illinois Department of Labor. The Department of Labor cited Monticello City administrators for 3 serious violations for not following OSHA regulations regarding asbestos. The ad also addressed the wastewater treatment plant, stating, quote, "The newest part, filter building, is 23 years old. The rest of our plant dates back to 1938, end quote. The first study of the wastewater treatment plant was approximately 60% complete when Mr. Alsop pulled the plug on it. The consultant's estimate was about $16 million. The current consultant's estimate is $8.6 million. The true cost will probably end up somewhere in between those figures, a very costly investment that will significantly increase sewer rates. Our officials plan to borrow all of the money for that new plant. They never set aside any funds for this major investment that they all knew was looming. Part of the plant was built in 1938. Where was our long-range planning and budgeting?" In a later statement from Alderman Miller, he said, quote, "The entire sewer plant is in severe need of replacement. It's considered ancient by wastewater treatment plant standards. If this had been replaced 4 to 5 years ago, the cost may have been about $4 to $5 million. The longer you wait, the higher it goes," end quote. The ad also stated, quote, "We are trying everything within reason to continue our mission of communicating and providing transparency and open government," end quote. Not quite. For example, Mr. Alsop approved a $20,000 payment to an engineering consultant. The invoice only noted that this payment was for 2 days of work and that it was a retainer, or a prepayment, for preparing a study. The total contract value was $20,000. One of the days of supposed work included the date that Mr. Alsop actually signed the contract. Mr. Alsop paid the consultant. In response to a Freedom of Information request, Mr. Alsop wrote, quote, "I am not aware of the use of retainers by the City of Monticello regardless of what was listed on the invoice," end quote. Hardly an example of communicating and providing transparency and open government. Mr. Alsop stated that the Open Meetings Act is ridiculous. With the mayor, council, and superintendent showing their scorn for following state and federal regulations, how can they expect residents to trust and respect them? Mayor Corey and the aldermen have spent much time, effort, and taxpayer money, particularly on legal fees, fighting the release of the closed session recording and minutes. Instead of spending this time and money covering up their murky machinations, they could have been working constructively for the betterment of our great city. Mr. Mitz was wrong. In the first line of the ad he wrote, "The public isn't discrediting and destroying confidence in city officials. The mayor, the alderman, and Mr. Alsop are doing that themselves."